Hi, I'm Anya, working for the Inclusion Post, and I'm here to talk about period poverty. And I'm really lucky to be joined by Tara, who is the founder of Flo Haven, which is a charity that is aiming to eradicate period poverty in Nigeria. So, hi, Tara, thank you so much for coming. How are you?
Hi, Anya. Thank you so much for having me. I'm good, thank you. And you, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. So I'm just going to jump straight in. Can you please start by telling us a little bit about what the problem is in Nigeria and how Flo Haven, your charity, is trying to help?
Sure. In terms of period poverty in Nigeria, a big problem is having access to menstrual products, firstly. And the biggest issue with that is the fact that these products cost a lot for the average family. And because of that, girls and women, especially in low income communities, end up using things like tissues and rags and cloth pieces because they can't afford to buy these menstrual products because they're always increasing in prices every year actually. So that's a big problem in terms of the issue of period poverty in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. Another flip side to that is the fact that there aren't that many different period products available. So it's just your average disposable pads and ever so often tampons, but majority of the girls and women in community use disposable pads because that's what they have access to. Because in the market, there aren't any other period products. It's whatever they have access to that they're limited to using. So that's one of the biggest problems, the fact that we don't have a wide range of variety of different period products for people to kind of have, the autonomy to choose what they want to use rather than them just, being given what is available. And then another flip side to that is, can they afford it? Can they sustain it for the rest of their menstrual cycle? And the real answer to that is no, because it's really expensive for the average family and just for people in general to be able to access them. So
thanks. Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of people in this country probably take it for granted that we even have variety to be able to choose different products. That's a good point. And then also, so I know that as well as period products, Flo Haven also talks about like educating people and fighting the stigma with the taboo around periods and like menstrual health. So can you just say a bit about why education is important and how you can make education effective so that it actually is taken in by people?
Yeah. So education is very important because it creates awareness of the issue in the first place. So, for example, the whole idea of how Flo Haven essentially started was me educating myself. I read a newspaper article about period poverty, and that literally brought tears to my eyes. And that was why I went out to the different communities to ask people, like, is this your reality? And it actually was. And I did a whole documentary about that can be found like on our YouTube channel if anyone ever wants to kind of figure out what the issue is in terms of period poverty in Nigeria. And I felt like education played a pivotal role in understanding that, yes, talking about it helps to kind of take away the taboo and stigma attached to menstruation, because a key part as well of period poverty is a lot of girls and women in the community don't feel like they have a safe space to talk about it. And because they don't talk about it, they don't have the knowledge that they need to make informed decisions about their menstrual health. So if you're talking about menstruation, if you're talking about, oh, actually I use tissue, or actually I use cloth pieces, and you're speaking openly about it, chances are there's going to be someone in the community that's going to question that and is going to ask why you're using that, and through that process educating yourself and knowing that actually this isn't the right thing to use because of the effects it can have on your reproductive health system. And so education is very important because it helps raise awareness and it helps kind of allow for menstruators and people in the community to know that, okay, this is the impact of what I'm doing, and this is why I need to do what I'm doing, or this is why I need to stop because of the effects it can have on me. So I feel like menstrual health education is very important. And I can't remember the second part of the question you asked, Anya. Do you mind repeating that so I can answer?
Just about, so like one of the problems is a lot of communities have stigma around talking about periods and like different period products and things like that. So I guess my question is, how do you make the education like fight against the stigma instead of people just not taking it in because of the stigma?
Yeah, so a big part of that is kind of having a little community and just talking about it openly and just encouraging women and girls to share their stories. Because I think there's beauty in vulnerability. And when people talk about their stories, you're more you're more willing rather to be open to share your own story. So in terms of fighting the stigma attached to kind of, not wanting to talk about it, a big thing that Flo Haven does is, we have workshops where we gather girls and women in communities and just kind of, create like a safe space for people to kind of, be open about it and not feel like they have to, be ashamed or they have to feel ostracized and not talk about it. So a key part has been just kind of creating an avenue for people to just gather together and talk and, share their stories. And in them sharing their stories, them empowering other women to, speak up about things and not, be silenced or not feel intimidated and, ashamed, because there's nothing to be ashamed about at the end of the day. So
yeah, that sounds really great. I think also obviously the stigma is at different levels in different places, but I think even in this country, like, we could learn a lot from literally just openly talking about it with everyone. So yeah, I think that's a good point. My next question is about basically, since very recently the IPCC report came out, which for anyone who doesn't know, that's a report by scientists about climate change and how the problem is becoming more urgent and how we know what we need to do. We need to reduce emissions and all of that, but we need to do it quickly. And I know that you've talked in the past about trying to give more options for more eco-friendly period products. So I wanted to ask about that and about how Flo Haven is thinking about being sustainable.
Yeah. So a big part of Flo Haven is sustainability. And another big key issue in Nigeria is the fact that we don't have access to eco-friendly period products. So for Flo Haven, for example, we have to import them from, or sometimes we receive donations from, brands that do offer these products, or sometimes from the general public. They tend to maybe ship them into Nigeria on our behalf. So we have access to them. So in terms of obviously trying to help fight, this issue, what we currently do is that we only distribute eco-friendly period products. So that could be menstrual cups, organic, 100% organic, disposable pads or tampons, reusable pads and period underwear. So a big part of that is by collaborating with brands that advocate for the same cause that we do. So brands that obviously we know are fighting against, brands that are fighting against the issues of plastics in period products. So a big part of menstruation or periods in general is that a lot of these commercially available period products have a lot of plastics in them. And obviously that has a very negative effect on the environment and obviously adds to the climate change crisis. And so a big part of what we do as well is that we let our audience, the community, know that we only advocate for distributing, plastic-free period products, and also educating the communities as well. Because the fact that obviously, like I mentioned earlier, Anya, that we don't have access to to eco-friendly period products in Nigeria, it means that a lot of communities aren't aware of obviously the climate change crisis and the issues that obviously these products has on the environment. So we also have to educate the girls and the women that we distribute to as well, because They also have to understand why we're giving them these certain products as opposed to, the commercial available period products that you can find in the market. So a big part is collaborating with brands that already do have that do produce these eco-friendly period products. And also, obviously, it is a big challenge because we don't have them available in Nigeria, and it's trying to get more brands to more maybe Nigerian brands to kind of produce and manufacture these products, so we don't have to export or rely on having to find it externally. So currently how we're trying to help combat that is by partnering with brands that do already have that, and hopefully someday in the future we do have communities and brands in Nigeria that advocate for sustainability, especially when it comes to menstrual health and menstrual well-being. So
cool. Yeah, that sounds really great. It sounds like you're thinking about it a lot in everything that you do, which is good, and also I think a little bit unusual for this kind of thing. So yeah, it's really good that you are taking it into account. So my next question is sort of linked to like the different kind of products. So obviously you can get menstrual cups and tampons, pads. So how do you sort of decide which products to give to people? How do you make sure that they will actually be used and that the solutions are right for the people that you're giving them to?
Yeah. So how we kind of measure that is dependent on the community. So each community requires different things. So some communities have access to water, but the water isn't clean. Mm-hmm. And some communities don't have access to water at all. And because of that, we might give them a different period product. So it's all dependent on what the community needs. And I feel like a way to measure that is we have community youth leaders or community leaders essentially who kind of, let us know what it is they need and what it is they benefit from. So it all depends on that. And then another aspect to that as well is, for example, in schools, in schools and in the communities, we give the girls and the women a survey to kind of fill in, to just kind of, educate ourselves as to, okay, what do they need and what do we have? Mm-hmm. And another thing I've also realized as well with Flo Haven is that a lot of nonprofits tend to just give communities pads. And I feel like because of that, they take away from the autonomy of the menstruator, because everyone should have access to choose what they want. So I shouldn't only have to rely on pads because that's what's available to me. But I actually want to try tampons, or I want to try a menstrual cup. And so another thing as well that we do is we also listen and ask them, okay, what do you actually want? We obviously have a wide range of different period products that have been made available to us because of donations. And so when we go on our outreach, we ask the girls and the women, like, okay, this is what we have. What are you open to trying? What would you like to try? Because we have this. And hearing from them, and some of them like, yeah, actually, I want to try the tampons. Never heard of tampons in my life. Sounds amazing. Want to try it? Because literally, I think our last outreach, we went to a school, and in this school, like no one had ever heard of tampons, the teachers, the students. And so I remember when I was teaching them and educating them on how to use them alongside the other volunteers, they were all like amazed, like, oh, I want to try this. This sounds amazing. And yeah, so it just goes to show that when things are accessible, people are more willing to try them out, or people are more willing to, just have autonomy to choose what they want to choose. And so, I feel like how we get to decide is also dependent on what the community needs, and also just, basing it off what is available. Because if you don't have access to clean water and we give you menstrual cups, we don't want to cause infections, or we don't want to have to treat a secondary issue to period poverty. So a big part of our sustainability approach is having an impact rather than just kind of numbers. So it's easy to say, yes, I gave 100 girls pads, but how many of those girls did you actually impact in terms of like ending period poverty, not just kind of like helping it on the surface level. And so currently those are the ways that we kind of measured that, okay, this is what this community needs, and this is what this school needs, or this is what this person needs, based off asking them, speaking to community leaders, and seeing what resources are available in the community, and working that way. So yeah.
That sounds great. That sounds like you've thought a lot about how to really empower people, which is great. And then one of my last questions is, so in another video interview that you did, I heard you talked about your goal, and it said it was to support 5,000 girls in Nigeria by the end of this year. So I wanted to ask for an update on how it's going, and whether you think you're going to reach it.
Yeah. So currently that has been challenging, because through my outreach and, just learning from communities, I realized that we've kind of changed our goal is still the same, to reach out to, 5,000 girls, but on a different scale. So we decided to go down a more sustainable approach, because we realized that 5,000 girls is can be like, so 5,000 girls, it was quite vague. So how did we want to measure that? And so what we decided to do was adopt communities. And in us adopting communities, we're able to impact the girls and the women in that community in terms of their menstrual cycle. So that way we measure, that way it was more measurable, and it was more of an impact, because we knew that we wanted to adopt communities, and we knew that we wanted to kind of make an impact rather than just numbers. And I felt like at the start of the year, I wanted to impact a lot of girls, but I realized that there were a lot of things that I had to consider in terms of resources that I had access to and the community had access to, and how I wanted to measure that in the grand scheme of things. And so with the 5,000 girls, it wasn't really measurable, because we didn't get to factor in what community we wanted to use. Are we going to go outside other states apart from Lagos, which is where we essentially founded and where we're actually focused? And so when I thought about it, we then decided that we wanted to adopt communities and measure our and have a sustainable impact that way. So we know that, okay, in this community, our goal is to end period poverty, and we can, we have more access as to, database, knowing what they need, and then kind of, measuring that for however long each girl and women have their menstrual cycle. And in that way, we know that we're actually helping end period poverty in that community, and then we can move on to another community. And yeah, so that was a key challenge for me, and something that I've come to realize. And I'm glad that I've been able to kind of, figure out that, okay, this is the best way to measure how we're actually impacting the community. This is the best way to measure that we're actually ending period poverty, and not just kind of alleviating it for a bit and then they having to, go back to their old habits of using tissues and rags and things like that. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, sounds like you're doing amazing work, and like really thinking about what will make a big difference to the whole of someone's life, not just like for a little bit. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then my final question is just, what is the biggest thing that someone in the UK can do to help you?
The biggest thing, I guess, it's just to kind of get involved in what we do. So that being donations, a big part of what we're doing requires funding. So it'll be great for people in the UK to just donate and support us. We are officially registered as an NGO in Nigeria. So we have a corporate bank account that people can donate into if they ever wanted to support the work we're doing. And just spreading the word as well of Flo Haven and getting involved. I know that some people have reached out to act as like independent volunteers on behalf of Flo Haven to fundraise for a cause at their university, or just kind of in general in their community. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that I feel people in the UK can support Flo Haven financially, and even if not financially, if they have period products, eco-friendly, of course, they can donate it to Flo Haven. We can provide their address of like where we store all our products that we give out to the community. So they can also donate those things as well. So yeah.
Cool. Great. Thank you so much. So is there anything else you want to share, or?
Yeah, if everyone can just, support us by following what we're doing, following our work to find out more about what we do. And we do have our social media platforms, so Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and YouTube as well, because that's where our documentary is. So if anyone ever wants to kind of understand pure poverty, but in maybe from a Nigerian perspective as to what's happening in Nigeria, a great way is to just, type in Flo Haven on YouTube and our page will come up and you can watch the documentary to understand why there's a need for an intervention in the first place. And yeah, follow our pages and, keep up with the work we're doing. And you can ask questions as well. And if anyone ever wants to get involved, you don't have to be in Nigeria to be a part of the Flo Haven community. You can work remotely as well and help us. And yeah, all of those informations can be found on our social media platforms. So yeah.
Cool, great. Yeah. I just want to say I recommend the documentary as well, because I watched that before this interview and it was really useful, giving just making period poverty actually make sense in terms of how it actually affects people's lives instead of just this big concept that you're not really sure about. So yeah, the documentary is really good. If you want to learn more, head over to that.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much, Tara. It was
Thank
really
you for
nice
having me.
speaking to you, of course.